I gotta be honest with you. What just happened to NASCAR's championship format is way bigger than people are admitting, and it's not even close. Because on the surface, it looks like a rules change, a tweak, a correction, something the suits in Daytona stamped onto a press release and shipped out in January. But if you've been paying attention, really paying attention, you already know this wasn't just a format update. This was a targeted move, and there's one driver in this entire garage whose career arc just got rewritten because of it. Two completely different stories are colliding here. One is about NASCAR trying to fix a broken system. The other is about a single road course assassin who walked into this sport, exploited a loophole nobody else could touch, and made the sanctioning body look around and go, yeah, we can't let that keep happening. And the wildest part? He admitted it himself, on record, in his own words. So yeah, we got to talk about this. But here's where it gets layered. For years, NASCAR sold you the win and you're in format as the heartbeat of the modern era. Win a race, punch your ticket, go chase a championship. Simple, dramatic, marketable. It turned every Sunday into a potential Cinderella story, and it gave the sport some of the most chaotic, beautiful, controversial moments in its modern history. But somewhere along the way, the math broke. Drivers were making the playoffs with average finishes in the 20s. A regular season champion could collect 25 wins worth of points and still get bounced in the round of 8 because he had one bad pit stop at Martinsville. Fans started asking the obvious question, if consistency doesn't matter, what are we even rewarding here? Real quick, if you're the kind of NASCAR fan who actually wants the honest version of these stories instead of the recycled headline takes, hit that subscribe button. We're pushing toward the next milestone, and every one of you matters. So NASCAR did what NASCAR almost never does. They listened, they blew it up, they brought back the chase. A 10-race playoff with no eliminations where the regular season actually decides who has the lead. Going into the final stretch, the top 16 in points make it, not the top 16 in wins points. Consistency, math you can defend at a bar without losing your voice. On paper, it's a win for the sport, on paper. But here's the thing that has fans scratching their heads. Because the second that announcement dropped, one driver in the entire field went very, very quiet. And when he finally spoke, what he said changed how I look at this whole decision. Shane van Gisbergen, the Kiwi, the road course wrecking ball, the guy who showed up to the Chicago street course in 2023, having never run a cup race in his life and won the thing, the first driver to win on debut since 1963, the guy who turned 2025 into a personal highlight reel on every road and street course on the calendar, 5 wins. Locked into the playoffs by July, a storyline NASCAR couldn't have scripted better if they tried. And then he opened his mouth, and the entire conversation tilted. Because when SVG was asked about the format change, he didn't dodge. He didn't give the corporate answer. He looked at it dead on and basically said, the win and you're in format is the reason I'm in this series. Read that again. Let it sit. The format that NASCAR just deleted from the rulebook is the exact mechanism that justified his entire move from Supercars to Cup. Because under the old system, a road course specialist could win 2 races in the summer, qualify for the playoffs on raw talent, and suddenly be a championship contender. It rewarded brilliance over a single weekend. It rewarded the outlier. It rewarded the guy who wasn't going to grind out 18th place finishes at Kansas in March. Under the new chase format, that math doesn't work anymore. You can win 5 road course races in 2026, 5, and if you're outside the top 16 in points, when the regular season ends, you are watching the playoffs from the motorhome lot. Wins don't punch tickets anymore. They just get you bonus points and bragging rights. That's not a rule change. That's a door slamming shut. And the door has SVG's name on it. But that's not even the craziest part, because SVG's reaction to all of this, it wasn't anger, it wasn't bitterness, it was something much more interesting. He said he was conflicted. That's the word he kept coming back to. As a fan, he gets it. He understands why the sport needed to reward consistency, why the regular season had to mean something again, why the casual viewer was checking out when a 14th place driver was lifting a championship trophy. As a competitor, he knows exactly what just got taken away from him. And here's where you have to respect the guy, because instead of crying about it, instead of running to the media and calling it unfair, he basically said, all right, I'll go figure out the ovals. That's the response. That's the entire response. Now think about what that tells you about the move NASCAR just made. They didn't just change a format. They forced the most interesting outlier in the sport to fundamentally redesign his career, to stop being a road course specialist and start being a complete cup driver, to go grind at Phoenix and Dover and Darlington and figure out how to finish 12th on a Tuesday night when his car is loose all day. And here's the question nobody in the garage wants to say out loud. Was this format change good for the sport overall, or was it specifically engineered to close the loophole that one driver was exploiting better than anyone in 50 years? Because the answer is probably both. And that's what makes it so uncomfortable. NASCAR can honestly say they fixed a broken system. They're right. Fans were checking out. The regular season was meaningless. The data backed it up. But NASCAR can also honestly say quietly, internally, in rooms we'll never sit in, that they had a problem with a road course assassin gaming a championship format that wasn't designed for him. And they fixed both problems with one rulebook update. That is not a coincidence, that is strategy. And that's not even accounting for what happens next. Because here's where the whole story flips on its head one more time. What if SVG actually does it? What if the guy NASCAR, just structurally disadvantaged, turns around in 2026, figures out the ovals, makes the chase on points, and then catches fire on the road courses in the playoff schedule? Because guess what's still on that 10-race chase calendar? The Charlotte Roval, Watkins Glen scenarios, tracks where he can absolutely gut the field. The same format that was designed to keep him out could end up being the format he conquers. And if he does, he won't just have won a championship, he'll have won an argument, he'll have proven that the loophole wasn't the thing that made him dangerous. He was the thing that made him dangerous. And that's the part that should keep every NASCAR fan locked in this season, because we are watching in real time a sanctioning body and a driver fight over the definition of greatness in this sport. Is it raw talent at specialty tracks, or is it the grind across 26 races at every layout on the calendar? NASCAR just gave you their answer. SVG hasn't given his yet. He's going to give it on the racetrack week by week, and we're all going to be watching to see what number is next to his name when the regular season ends. So tell me in the comments, do you think this format change was about fixing the sport, or was it specifically about closing the SVG loophole? Be honest, I read every single one, and I want to know what you actually think before Daytona. Because if I'm right about what's coming this summer, you do not want to miss what happens next.